Reason number 46 to get a Nissan. Features, especially the ones you get with the 2025 Nissan Kicks Play. Integrated Apple CarPlay, a spacious interior, advanced safety features, and more room in your budget. Because it's the most affordable new vehicle in Quebec. Get the 2025 Nissan Kicks Play S from only $22,774, including a $2,600 cash purchase bonus. Visit your Nissan dealer today. Until March 2nd, conditions apply. Details at Nissan.
Third hour of the Elias Smacko Show. Now, last week, the Israeli military confirmed they had killed Yahya Sinwar, leader of Hamas. Sinwar had been the number one target for Israel since the beginning of the war, viewed as the orchestrator of the deadly October 7th attacks, which in turn triggered a 13-month war in Gaza, which continues, now a wider conflict that includes Lebanon. Now many are wondering what Sinwar's death means for the war. With more on this, let's welcome Kyle Mathews onto the program. He's executive director of the Montreal Institute for Genocide and Human Rights Studies at Concordia University. Kyle, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Wes.
And before we get to the subject of today, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Last Thursday, I participated in your big international security summit that you had on, and the topic was the Indo-Pacific and China, and I participated in a panel, and I moderated a panel on Taiwan. The whole event, Kyle, was just fantastic. We'll have another day to talk about Taiwan, I imagine, but I just want to thank you so much for inviting me, and it was just a fantastic event.
Thank you. Yeah, it was bringing great minds together, and you learn a lot.
Exactly. So with that in mind, let's talk about this subject at hand, the death of Yahya Sinwar. What do you think it means for the war, the ongoing war?
Well, there are many people that think it's going to be important and might bring about a ceasefire or end the war, and others that think that it's going to continue. And I'm kind of sitting on the fence. I'm not too sure what the impact will be. We have a history of extremist groups, of their leaders getting taken out, but yet the organization or the groups themselves don't necessarily stop. They continue. We've seen that with ISIS. We've seen that with different Al-Qaeda affiliate groups across Africa and the Middle East. So I'm not too sure if this is really going to bring about the peace or force Hamas to release the hostages or not.
And, I was reading a Reuters piece on the death of Yahya Sinwar, and they recounted a story from Sinwar's former dentist. His name is Yuval Biton. Before he was recruited by Israel's prison intelligence service, he was the dentist for Sinwar, and he recounted this story. He asked him, and I kind of think about this. It's kind of incredible. Sinwar's dentist asking him, hey, when it comes to the death of innocent people, and he was asked about, is it worth it for 10,000 innocent people to die in order to free 100 prisoners, right? That was the question that was tossed at him. And Sinwar's reply was, even 100,000 is worth it. Can you talk to me, Kyle, about Sinwar's mentality when it comes to civilians dying, and how much of that mentality led to the position we're in today?
Yeah, well, listen, Sinwar is an extremist. The organization he leads, Hamas, their charter is genocidal in nature. There's very difficult or any space between them to find a peace deal. Hamas under Sinwar wanted to destroy Israel and always say, push all the Jews in the ocean. Like they are genocidal in nature. So I'm not surprised. And one has to look at, however awful this war is, one has to look at Sinwar as making a choice to launch brutal attack against Israel on October 7th, killing civilians, and what that meant for Palestinian civilians. It's led to the deaths of them. So here's somebody who did not care about civilians, was willing to sacrifice their lives for the greater war that he wanted to pursue. And there's a reason why the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him, or he was indicted by the International Criminal Court, because the crimes he's committed are targeting civilians, not military targets. So extremist number one.
Kyle, is there just a never-ending list of people to replace the Sinwars of the world? Like if Israel kills the next person, and Israel then kills the next person, and the two people under him, and it just goes on. Is there just a never-ending list here of people that are willing to keep up this cause, so it doesn't matter who's at the top?
Well, that's the fear, is that the Israeli response and the violence unleashed against Hamas and in Gaza is going to create a feeder belt of extremists, and that's a problem. The Israelis, though, saw this militarized group and committed violence, so they basically made the conclusion, I assume, that they have to defang this group or destroy them because they are a threat to their security. So yeah, no one comes out ahead in this conflict. It's a messy conflict. There are extremists that are eager to continue the fight, that see it as a battle in religious terms, not just one nationalistic. And one has to say, the extremists that have taken non-state actors like Hamas that have targeted civilians and targeted Israel, they should also learn that the violence they pursue has not led to any notable gains for their cause. And we're stuck in this vicious cycle of violence, and nobody knows how to end it or how to get out.
We're with Kyle Mathews, who's Executive Director of the Montreal Institute for Genocide and Human Rights Studies at Concordia University. Kyle, in light of your title and where you're coming from, I need to ask you this. You reference, right, Hamas and their genocidal charter, right? But I often get thrown at me, over the last year or so, when we're talking about this subject, I'll get a text message. People will throw this at me that Israel is actually the genocidal group in this conflict. As someone that studies genocide, give me your thoughts. How do you handle that? Because you must hear that all the time, especially at Concordia University.
Well, listen, it's been very difficult because on the day of the attack on Israel, October 7th, before Israel responded, I began to see on social media tons of activists or others claiming a genocide was ongoing, and that's before Israel responded. I think this is a brutal war. I do think we're seeing war crimes being committed. It's unfortunate, but my main point is that any of progressive activists that are pointing to Hamas as some legitimate resistance, I am seeing academics claim that the attacks by Hamas on civilians on October 7th were legitimate because they were settler colonials. This is against international human rights law. That attack has led to this bout of conflict, and I think we need to find a path forward to protect both Israelis and Palestinians and stop the violence. But extremist groups like Hamas are not, I would say, willing partners for peace.
Do you see, Kyle, any pathway that gets us to an end of this conflict?
Well, it's not just a conflict between Palestinians, and this is what was said at the security conference that you attended last week, that Iran is playing a major role. Iran is backing Hamas, backing Hezbollah, backing the Houthis, and engaging in a war against Israel. So it's very, very complex. And until we're able to perhaps limit Iran's ability to arm groups in different countries, like in Lebanon or other countries, we won't see any peaceful possibility. And I think that's what we got to focus on. It's not just the Israel-Palestinian conflict; it's also being supported by Iran. And I think people have lost track of that. They've lost track about what Iran is also doing in this conflict.
And do you think Israel will escalate against Iran if that's where this is coming down to, and Israel's like, no, this is never again territory? Do all signs point to a further escalation till you get to Iran?
Well, that is what everyone is concerned about. The Americans have been warning Israel not to attack Iranian oil facilities or nuclear facilities. But Israel has said they are going to respond to the last military outfit. So yes, this is a very dangerous situation, and we need to have all hands on wheels in trying to bring down the pressure, and also tell Iran that if they don't stop this, they will have negative repercussions for their leadership as well.
Kyle, thank you so much for hopping on with us today. Always appreciate your insight. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on.